The story begins with Henrik Vanger receiving framed flowers. A close-up reveals dozens of similar framed flowers meticulously arranged on a wall behind him. These gifts, received once a year, are a cruel reminder of his long-lost niece, Harriet Vanger, who disappeared without a trace 40 years ago. The story shifts to Stockholm, a modern and urban contrast to Henrik's isolated estate. Mikael Blomqvist, a middle-aged investigative journalist, walks briskly through a crowded press area, dodging flashing cameras and murmuring reporters. The judge had read out the ruling in favor of Hans-Erik Wennerström, the powerful businessman Mikael accused of corruption. The devastating judgment orders Mikael to pay massive damages, effectively ruining his career and credibility. As he exits the courtroom, a swarm of reporters bombard him with questions, but he remains silent, avoiding eye contact. Meanwhile, his colleagues at Millennium magazine watch with concern, realizing this is a crippling blow to their publication. Erika Berger, Mikael's co-editor and secret lover, tries to console him in private, but Mikael, disillusioned, states bitterly that he had been set up by Wennerström. He explains that Wennerström fed him false evidence, and he unknowingly took the bait, leading to his downfall. Knowing that his reputation could further damage the magazine, Mikael steps down from Millennium, leaving Erika both worried and saddened. The scene shifts to Milton Security, a high-tech investigative firm in Stockholm. Drogan Armansky, the company's CEO, sits across from Dirch Frode, Henrik Vanger's lawyer. Frode requests a discreet and thorough investigation into Mikael Blomqvist's personal and professional history. Drogan immediately turns to his best analyst, Lisbeth Salander. Lisbeth enters the room, thin, pale, covered in piercings, with short jet black hair. She barely makes eye contact, her posture withdrawn yet intensely focused. Despite her introverted and distant demeanor, her brilliance is immediately apparent. Without hesitation, she hands Frode a thick file, a comprehensive report on Mikael, detailing everything about his life, including facts that aren't publicly available. Stunned by the depth of the report, Frode hesitates before asking, "How do you know this?" Lisbeth coldly replies, "It's my job." Meanwhile, Mikael receives an unexpected phone call from Dirch Frode, offering him a lucrative job opportunity. Initially, Mikael is reluctant, ready to take time off after his legal defeat. However, Frode insists and invites him to Hedestad, where Henrik Vanger wishes to meet him in person. Curious and intrigued, Mikael boards a train heading north to the remote, snow-covered Vanger estate. Upon arrival, Henrik welcomes Mikael into his vast, historic mansion, filled with antique painting, old books, and a lingering air of nostalgia. Seated in his dimly lit study, Henrik begins recounting his painful and personal tragedy. He hands Mikael a faded photograph of Harriet Vanger, his 16-year-old niece who vanished without a trace for decades ago. Henrik is convinced that Harriet was murdered, and worse, the killer is someone within his own family. He gestures toward the wall of framed flowers, explaining that Harriet used to send him one every year on his birthday. The eerie part? The flowers never stopped arriving, even after her disappearance, suggesting that someone is taunting him. He offers Mikael financial compensation and a key piece of evidence to take down Wennerström in exchange for investigating the cold case. Though skeptical at first, Mikael accepts the challenge. Meanwhile, Lisbeth visits her legal guardian, Holger Palmgren, only to discover that he suffered a stroke and has been replaced by Nils Bjurman, a controlling and abusive bureaucrat. Unlike Palmgren, Bjurman doesn't see Lisbeth as an independent adult. Instead, he exploits his authority over her finances. When she requests access to her own money, he forces her into unwanted sexual favors in exchange. Lisbeth, disgusted but unable to resist, remains silent but furious. Later, when she demands full financial independence, Bjurman violently rapes her in his apartment, leaving her physically and emotionally scarred. Determined to take control, Lisbeth returns to Bjurman's apartment under the pretense of submitting again. However, this time, she tarzes him, handcuffs him to the bed, and records his desperate cries for mercy. She tattoos the words "I am a rapist pig" across his chest as a permanent mark of his crimes. With the leverage of the recorded assault, she forces him to sign a legal document, granting her full control over her finances, ensuring he will never touch her again. Mikael, now settled in a small cabin on the Vanger estate, begins analyzing old photographs, newspaper clippings, and police reports from the day Harriet vanished. He reconstructs her final known moments, studying a photo of Harriet staring at someone in the crowd before disappearing. He starts interviewing the Vanger family, uncovering dark secrets and hostility within their lineage. Struggling with a coded entry in Harriet's journal, Mikael enlists Lisbeth's expertise. Lisbeth deciphers it with ease, realizing it refers to Bible verses connected to brutal murders. Mikael, impressed by her intellect, persuades her to work with him. Together, they unravel a decades-old pattern of ritualistic killings, all linked to members of the Vanger family. Their investigation leads them to Martin Vanger, whom they suspect to be the final key to the puzzle. Mikhail, seeking more evidence, sneaks into Martin's house, but is ambushed and taken captive. Bound in a soundproof basement, Mikhail is subjected to Martin's twisted confessions, revealing that he and his father committed the murders for decades. Just as Martin prepares to kill Mikhail, Lisbeth bursts in, striking Martin unconscious with a golf club. Martin flees in his car, but Lisbeth chases him on her motorcycle. In a tense pursuit, Martin's car flips and explodes, killing him instantly. Mikhail and Lisbeth track Harriet to Australia, discovering she fled years ago to escape her abusive father and brother. Harriet finally returns to Sweden and reunites with Henrik, closing the long-standing mystery. Lisbeth, believing she has found a true friend in Mikhail, buys him a custom leather jacket, intending to give it to him. However, as she approaches his home, she sees Mikhail reuniting with Erika. Realizing that he doesn't love her back, her expression turns cold. She tosses the jacket into a dumpster, gets on her motorcycle, and disappears into the night, leaving Mikhail behind.